And the title alone can be taken in so many ways when you get into Daylyt and J. Cole naming this a plate of collard greens. Now, of course, they feed in the culture. It is food for the soul. But they give you little Easter eggs throughout the record and throughout the rhymes as far as what it means. But, of course, a plate can mean money. Collard greens, green can mean money, right? And can you be collared by the lack of having green, having funds? Can you be a slave to chasing money, chasing green, right? There's a lot that can go into the title. This is the level. Let's get into it. Let's shine some light on the situation. Daylyt featuring J. Cole, a plate of collard greens. Lyrics explained. Let's go. All right. Without further ado, let's get into the lyrics explained. Verse 1 on Daylyt. Now, Daylyt is more known as a battle rapper, but recently signed a few years ago by TDE. He's part of the group A Room Full of Mirrors. If you don't know Daylyt, get familiar because now that the level of MCing is going up, MCs like this are coming out to play and they're not really playing at all. As Daylyt really killed this verse, as he starts it off, just pray for me on the third. It's a body chopped in thirds. I heard a lot of sheep in the circle and you the goat, the Judas coming to purge. Now, the lines are super layered, okay? So just the first line, just pray for me on the third. So the third means the third day, okay, in the Bible. The third is a resurrection or birth and rebirth, right? Man and woman makes child. That's three, the Trinity. He also could be referencing, there's a third verse that he said to this record. So it could be the missing third verse. Just pray for me on the third verse, because in the third verse, he may reveal some things that he shouldn't or say some things that he shouldn't. Also, he may be releasing a new song on October 3rd. He's been alluding to that on Twitter, on his social media. So it could mean that as well. I also think the date of a release date is on the cover art in the right-hand corner of the ticket of the cover art. But anyway, let's continue. It's a body chopped in thirds. Now, this could mean a lot of things. Now, Daylyt is a battle rapper. You know, there's 3 rounds normally to a battle rap. So when you catch a body, means that you destroyed your opponent in battle rap. So it's a body chopped in thirds. Could mean to destroy a rapper in 3 rounds, right? Also the pen being deadly, or the verses being deadly, the song being deadly, right? 3 verses, chopped in thirds, same thing. Then he says, I heard a lot of sheep in a circle. Now, of course, he's saying, I heard a lot of sheep, as in fans in a circle talking nonsense, right? So to speak. That's why he says sheep. Also, I heard, like you heard sheep, of course. He could be herding MCs in a circle, right? To battle again. You know, they battle in a circle. Everybody forms a circle and the 2 MCs battle in the middle. Also, when he presents himself, when he rhymes, when he raps, a lot of people gather around to hear it, like we're doing right now in examining the lyrics and breaking it down to everybody who's been hyping up the lyrics and listening to the song, right? So I heard a lot of sheep in a circle. He's going to allude to being a pastor later on in the verse. So he could be referring to that as well. It means all of those things at the same time, right? So he's speaking about battling. He's speaking about public perception. It's crazy. Also, now when he says, and you the goat, the Judas come in and purge, right? That's going back to him playing with the 3s, as in the big 3, right? And the GOAT debate. And the question of who's the GOAT, right? Well, Daylyt has relationships with all 3 in some form or fashion, right? Of course, he's on this record with J. Cole. He has a relationship with Drake. Maybe he was a ghostwriter for him. Maybe he wasn't. And of course, he's a part of TDE, which of course is Kendrick's old label and clique, right? So he could be referring to himself as the Judas, coming for that GOAT position, all right? This is friendly sparring. When you get on the mic, you always want to be the best, especially at this level of MCs. So I think that's what he's referring to there. It could also be just that when you have the GOAT spot, there's always going to be some form of treachery from those around you who are jealous. He gets more into that in the rest of the bars here. Let's continue. So he says, and it hurt him every time you splurge. All this time spent, the mind sent the haters at me. And it make me happy knowing they could never touch me. I tackle every goal he made. They think we playing rugby. Ugly. Okay, bars. Now when he says it hurt him every time you splurge. So again, he's using heard. Now he's using it in a different way. So he's saying it hurt him, so it can hurt them every time you splurge, meaning every time you spend money, they become jealous, or every time you kick rhymes, they become jealous because of your ability or because of your money every time you splurge. Or it means it herds them every time you splurge, every time you spit, every time you kick, or whenever, of course, you have a lot of money, what happens, people herd around and hope that you spend money on them and try to tag along and be groupies and all of that. Okay, so this is a masterclass in entendres and wordplay. Okay, so he's saying the same thing he said in a different way when he says, I heard a lot of sheep in a circle. It's a call back to that line, right? Because it heard him every time you splurge as well. Same thing, pretty much. Now, then he's talking about his rhyme style when he says, or his ability, so to speak, all this time spent, the mind sent the haters at me, right? And then he says, it make me happy knowing they can't touch me. I tackled every goal he made. They think we playing rugby, but if you're playing rugby and they can't touch you, then you score a goal, of course, right? And he says, I tackle every goal he made, right? So everything put in his way or every battle that he has to face as far as on the mic or in life, he tackles, right? He accomplishes, he exceeds. And that's pretty much what the verse is about as a whole as we continue. The rugby in the ghost looked like the floor at the haunted house. 600,000 on 200 acres. I know it hurt him bad. Paparazzi peek, we closed the curtains. I know it hurt him mad. Okay, so when he says the rugby in the ghost look like the floor at the haunted house. Now, of course, a floor at the haunted house has a lot of ghosts on it, zombies on it, right? That could mean the foundation or his foundation is spooky, right? Like a floor at the haunted house. Like so, because that's a term you use in rapping and battle rap, especially. It gets spooky for people, it gets dark for people when an MC reaches a certain level of performance in writing. But it also could mean he could be referring to himself as a ghost writer, right? And the rug being the ghost, like what's under his feet, looking like the floor at the haunted house. So there could be a lot of ghostwriting credits underneath his feet, so to speak. That could be what he's saying. That's kind of a reach though. But I also took it as because of the next line with the 600,000 on 200 acres, that's a reference to slavery. So he could be saying that the foundation of who he is built on ghosts, or who we are is built on the ghosts of 600,000 on 200 acres. Now, of course, that could also just mean strictly buying property, you know, buying 200 acres with $600,000. That it would cost more than that. And most plantations were closer to 5 to 1,000 acres. But what makes me think he's referencing slavery as a double is the hurt him part. I know it hurt him bad, right? Because again, he's going to the herd and hurt him, right? He's using herd as in herding people together and hurt him, right? Okay, the actual pain endured during slavery. So when he continues with the paparazzi line, peek through the curtains, we close the curtains. I know it hurt them mad. So now they're mad that we've risen to the point of celebrity and fame where paparazzi chase us, and it hurts them that we have been able to rise to these levels. So I know it hurt them and they mad, right? So when he continues, just like a verse that the pastor gave from the pulpit, they mad adore me, but I ain't here for the BS. Now, the pastor gave from the pulpit is also, it's not just about, you know, him spitting the gospel and making gospel and Bible references. It's also about him making money from the verse, right? You know, it's time to pass the collection plate. So then when he says they mad adore, as in mad adore me or matador me, and I ain't here for the BS, right? Bulls, of course, matadors taunt and attract bulls. So he's saying I'm not attracted by the praise that I get. So matador and matador, that's a crazy double to use that word in that way, and how it connects to somebody trying to attract you to them, or somebody trying to gain favor with you by mad adoring you, so to speak, or they trying to matador you, but he ain't here for the bullshit. Hey, that's a cold line right there. That line is crazy. So then he continues, never stress who they gonna bless today. I knew I'd get a meal. I came from Section 8. I ain't stressed the plate. So again, that's calling back first to being adored, right? The matador line. Also, though, to not receiving credit for being a ghostwriter, right? When you know you've written things that somebody else is getting praise for. Now, the word meal and mill, as in $1 million, is a double he's using here as far as wordplay. So he said, I never stress who they gonna bless today. I knew I would get a meal eventually, right? So I would get my money and my credit, right? And a meal, of course, I would eat, right? Again, going to the plate of collard greens, title of the song. And of course, I didn't stress the plate because I come from Section 8, right? I'm used to not having. So let's continue. The rest is greatness. It's history in the making. His story he making. Placed inside the trap, tapped with laxatives. And we think we running shit. Relax and relapse. Dope lift up 100 clips. So when he starts and he says the rest is greatness, history in the making is history he's making, he's saying that that era of not getting credit is over and he's moving forward to getting his credit, right? History in the making, his story he's making, right? So now he gets to tell his story, not write for other people and tell their story, so to speak. And then he speaks to the street that he comes from, or the streets that he comes from, right? Placed inside a trap, tapped with laxatives, and we think we running ish. So of course, if you have a lot of laxatives, you gonna be running, right? Ish, literally. But he's also speaking to the false mindset that being from the hood represents, right? So when he says relax and relapse, dope lift up 100 clips, right? And then some blocks turn haunted, growth stunted, again, full of ghosts, full of death, so to speak, right? And you can see the laxative as the dope. You know, it has you think you running shit, but really you just run and you know the rest. It leaves you empty and most of the time dead. So then he continues like Barnum and Bailey, hard for the babies, clowning and drowning in they surround as if an opt-out, backseat of the police car, but never cop out. So again, like P.T. Barnum is known for the phrase, there's a sucker born every minute, right? So then again, going back to the laxatives and you think you running ish, but you're not, right? So you're being fooled by the apparent success of being a dope dealer and being in the dope game in the streets, right? Dope lift up 100 clips. So that gets into the next line when he says you clowning and drown in they surroundings. If an opt out. Okay, also clowns in the circus, of course, they pack into the car. So when the op is out, you know, people, if they're going on a mission in the street, they pack into a car like clowns in a circus, right? Then he says backseat of the police car, but never cop out. So they don't tell, but also they don't give up in trying to strive. And that's when he gets into the next one. The pole too low to stop doubting for better days. The sun bright out, children, let it raise. If you hear this, keep your head up, praise, go. All right, so again, a lot of layer there. So the pole too low, like the expectations are too low for us not to jump over them, right? Now, also he's talking about North and South Pole. So those poles are too low or too far away, right? To stop doubting for better days. Of course, day means sunshine, right? And then when he says the sun bright out, children, let it raise, meaning let the rays hit you and look to the future, right? Raise your kids as well, children, let it raise. And then if you hear this, keep your head up, praise, head up to the sky, head up to the sun. And we are people of the sun, people of melanin. So praise the sun. That all fits together. And that is Daylyt's verse. There was a lot there, but it's Daylyt. If you know Daylyt and you're familiar with him as an MC, this is normal. If you don't know Daylyt, this is a lot. So now let's get straight into Cole's verse. Now Cole went crazy on this verse. Now he starts it off. The rain is obsolete. Jermaine is out to be celebrated, paraded out in the streets for days, if not for weeks. For bringing us out of the bleakest burning pit, my words is slick. When it's my turn to kick, I apply pressure like I'm trained to stop a leak. Now how vain is my belief? Started off spazzing. Now, of course, he's saying no matter if he's the GOAT or not, and his reign as far as all these features and being one of the best MCs, it doesn't matter. He still should be celebrated because of what he's doing as far as preserving hip hop with the features, with the mixtapes and loose albums. Cole is the one consistently holding it down for hip hop, in my opinion. So of course he used a double with Rain. Of course, Rain as King, or Rain, the rain coming down. As far as what transpired during the battle and the drama with him being in and out of it, he's addressing the hit his reputation took, and he's saying it, you know, that shouldn't matter because no matter what, when he's on the mic or when he presents himself in these features, he applies pressure and stops the bleeding or stops the lack of skill and the boredom that plagues the game at this point. Let's just be honest. And one thing to pay attention to as we go through these bars is the multiple rhyme schemes he has, not only within each bar, but also how he keeps coming back to the same double E sound. Now he comes off the tourniquet bar with saying, how vain is my belief. So now you know, of course, he meant to say tourniquet as well as turn to kick. So now when he goes into my cadence proper from days laid across the street from these Caucasian neighbors, new kids that stayed around out of green, and not as mean as my homies that played on project swings. What fate has not foreseen. So again, like Daylyt, he's explaining not only his come up, but how he overcame the circumstances that he grew up in, okay? When he's talking about, I guess, the juxtaposition of living in the hood versus living in the suburbs and being jealous of the white kids now that he lived around. And that's what he meant by, he said, I'd green and not as mean as my homies that played on project swings, right? Then he's gonna talk about how you kind of have PTSD when you grow up in that environment. When he gets into the next bars, my brain stained, ingrained with stories of slain bodies from heinous robberies and rated R regimes, exchanging raw for cream. Now quickly, that's just drugs for money. Raw is drugs, cream is money. Tricked them and went left. They pull up shooting like Tatum off the screen. The bills is due. As kids, we knew the way the calls would ring. Now, when he says they pull up like Tatum shooting off a screen, Jason Tatum is an NBA player who plays for the Boston Celtics. They wear green, of course, right? So he's staying with the green scheme as well because he's talking about money as well, right? Then he says the bills is due. And as kids, we knew the way the calls would ring. Now that's also referring to the referee blowing the whistle when Tatum comes off the screen, right? So it's entendres layered with wordplay at the same time. And he's staying with the subject of lack of money creating jealousy, which money and jealousy is both green. So now he continues, since mom ain't paid him off, we trained to watch the names across the screen and let collections pass like we failed to make an offering. Gotta channel those thoughts, cause damn, the cable office seems. Deep down, I hated Halloween with all that I have seen. Okay, so when he says, since mom ain't paid him off, he's not only referring to the bills, he's also referring to the referee making the call in the basketball game, right? We knew the way the calls would ring with Tatum coming off the screen. You know, if you pay the ref off, then he won't make the call. So he's using basketball as an entendre and a reference point to call back to also explain the way we come up being poor and not having money, right? So in a way, he's saying the game or the society that we come up in is very much rigged, right? Because if you paying a referee off, then you rigging the game. Then he goes also into using television and not paying a cable bill along with a basketball game in the line where he says we train to watch the names come across the screen. So that could be the names on the back of a jersey coming across a screen in basketball, but also the names of the channels coming across the screen when you don't pay the cable bill. So then when he says you gotta channel thoughts because damn, the cable office seems, and he talks about hating Halloween because of what he's seen, he's talking about, yes, I have to channel these thoughts, right, to make money, come up with these raps to make money, but it also makes me bring up the past that I came from full of violence, you know, and ghosts of the past, so to speak, going back to Daylyt's verse. So now we get into the Michael Jackson references. I'm just gonna go through them. If you know Michael Jackson's career and the songs and the videos, you'll catch them, right? So who needs another way to cause a scream? Dangerous as the king of pop. How well they spin your block. No moves, minimal, smooth criminals. Whole gang doing insane amounts of lean. This might be the verse of the year. I'm just gonna be honest. All of that, okay? The song Scream, the album Dangerous, of course, Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson known for doing dance moves, spin moves, and he says no moves, minimal, right? In the Smooth Criminal video, when they stopped dancing and they leaned in the Smooth Criminal video, and lean, of course, the drink. Now in the Smooth Criminal video, of course, it was like a gangster video, so it was violence within the video as well. So again, it's that those bars right there are so layered and relatable and understandable at the same time. It's really crazy. And understandability and relatability in bars is something that's underrated. You know what I'm saying? Where people who are not as deep and, you know, like Daylyt's bars were more deep and in depth. Like you have to be real knowledgeable to understand some of the references. But this is all stuff, this is pop culture references put in a way that is just pretty much incredible. I'm just gonna be honest about it, but let's continue. So then he continues, this ain't prescribed because there's no doc for the pain they harbor, ring some pray to God, but it's odd because Satan's catered all their dreams. Spiritually malnourished, dehydrated, now they fiend for truth in these flows, food for their souls to make it all serene. And then he says, well, here's your plate of collard greens, right? So he ends with a flurry of rhymes in the double E, you know, double een, eames, fiend, all of that, right? but in what he said, right? So he goes to the spiritual and religious references at the end like Daylyt did, but this ain't prescribed, okay? Because most of the time people drink lean, it's supposed to be prescribed, and it's not. But since subscriptions is on my mind, subscribe to the channel right quick if you're not already. But he's also highlighting how the lifestyle and the choices that some people make from our culture and just in the world in general has to do with them responding to the circumstances that they're put in, right? That's what he's explaining in the earlier parts of the verse. Now, and in that last line when he says, for truth in these flows, food for their souls to make it all serene. Hip hop is supposed to be that representation, not only of that expression, also of knowledge, and also just an escape from the problems people face, you know, at home, back home, the way they were raised, the environment that they're raised in, when it's done correctly. And you can look at it as what both of them are saying, and the title track, the track being titled Collard Greens, is we're not giving people, we're not feeding them with the creativity through the arts. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times music can be an escape for people. It can inspire people. It can make them feel better. And when the music isn't about anything and it's kind of random and, you know, it's mumbling and all of that, and the beats are kind of empty and repetitive, you know, people are not getting fed. So they turn to drug culture. They turn to nonsensical violence that really doesn't have anything to do with money. And a lot of the violence now, the youth are just kind of doing things out of boredom. And that's because, I guess, to me, what he's saying is hip hop is not doing its part in feeding the culture like it could, imparting that knowledge like it could, moving the trajectory of our cultures forward, you know, through the creativity. And to be totally honest, if you look at the references he uses throughout the verse, he's using references that span the generations. You know, there's Michael Jackson references for, you know, Gen X and the millennials. There's Jason Tatum references for the younger Gen Z, Gen Y, or whatever, the real younger generation. So again, he's also making sure that he pulls something in to catch most of the listeners of hip hop as he delivers the message. All of that has to be highlighted when people are spitting rhymes and giving credence to the level of emceeing that's being done here. Now, I'm gonna be honest, until I started doing these lyrical breakdowns, I wasn't that big of a fan of J. Cole. I had him way underrated. I'm gonna be honest. I've done, this is my first record I think I'm doing, or my first verse of him I think I'm doing on the main channel, but for the membership, I've done a couple videos, Pie being one of them with him, Daylyt and Absol. And J. Cole's ability is, I see why his fans, even if they don't get the references, all of them, but he's pretty relatable. I see why he has such a cult following like he does. J. Cole is up there. Now, who did the best on this record here? I'm not sure right now. I'm edging Cole a little bit just for relatability. I'm giving him a little bit of an edge, but I'd have to listen a few more times and go through it a few more times to really make a decision. But I'm gonna put a poll up on the channel. Vote in on that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What you think of the verses, who got the best verse, who had the best verse, or whose did you like more, I should say. Thank you for watching as always. If I missed anything or you think anything I missed, comment below. I may do another video featuring the comments and highlight those if it's enough of them. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, share the video. Thank you for watching as always, and we out.